All right, we're live on Facebook. I'm back, guys. Thanks for having me back.
You just
How
keep the
you
motor
doing?
running, dude. That's all.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome, welcome. Good to be back. David, good to have you back. Glad you took care
Thank
of
you,
whatever
man.
you needed to, and let's keep going. Again, everyone, welcome. Richard. Hi to you as well. Sorry, I know you're doing the background work, but
That's hello
we're
and hi.
yep, absolutely. We're continuing in our pattern of this new format that David, Richard, and I have decided to transition to a once weekly newscast centered around what do you call it? Around uh, yes, but sometimes we want to just kind of rework that and continue with just doing a little bit of a news digest. Ooh, I just realized that my background is very hectic. David, yours is very patriotic. And Richard, yours is very
Thank
professional,
you.
like an
No,
office.
I just got a lot. It looks like CNN
Yeah,
back there because I got all this stuff going on. So
Yeah, I don't know, like
keep
that's
it at
pretty cool.
CNN.
like in this Zoom world, like something about the way that we started to operate virtually. I never got into the virtual backgrounds for whatever reason. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
I didn't either.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not in my usual location, so it's nice to have it just for a consistent background when I'm not in the usual place. So,
Perfect. I mean, David, let's jump to it. There's a lot going on. Obviously, we're
yeah,
entering towards like the end of January. Um, the fallout of the end of the war, horrible COVID spike here in the
yeah,
California, and obviously, like the grandest news of the quote unquote free world, right? The transition of power in the United States, a very hectic one
yeah.
at
It
that.
actually happened. It actually happened. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it actually happened. So yeah, let's we can jump in. Obviously, we can start with that. Typically we don't concentrate
Yeah,
on
let's do it.
American news, but obviously today, former vice president, former senator from Delaware, uh, Joseph R. Biden became president. Together with him, there was a new first ever woman vice president. Did anybody catch the
Yeah,
inauguration?
and woman of color. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I did. I
Yeah,
watched it all day, and I watched all extra, all of the concert and the everything following as well. I thought it was well done. I thought they did a nice job tweaking it and adjusting it as much as they could, given the pandemic and the situation with the pandemic.
right. So obviously, because we are an Armenian organization, what does that mean for us? Well, right off the bat, we there are two things that we see happening here. Obviously, there are two names that we saw circulate all around. That were there was a gentleman by the name of Jeff Martunian. He joins Biden's climate team, which we know Joe Biden is big on trying to kind of re-engage in the climate discourse and the horrendous impact that's having on us. By the way, I mean, I'm not an environmentalist in the full sense of the word, but I'm very concerned about what's happening. And I was talking to a friend, kind of like this whole era of Trumpism and the craziness of everything that 2020 brought made me forget that prior to 2020, 2019 was marked by the entirety of Brazil burning, and then you can almost see like that rolled into the entirety of Australia burning in the early onset of 2020. But that's almost been like shadowed by the fact that everything else happened in 2020, and not to mention culminating in what the hell was going on here in terms of record-breaking fires here in California. So, anyways, it's nice to know that Biden's on this. How he's gonna be able to do it, I don't know. But and this gentleman, Armenian American, is on his climate team, so that's great.
Yeah.
David,
So just
there was
some notes on
yeah.
Rutin real quick. Apparently, he is the director of the District of Columbia's Department of
Mhm.
Transportation and serves on the U.S. Department of Transportation Agency review team for the Biden-Harris transition. He was on the transition, so now he is the special assistant to the president for climate and science agency personnel. He's not the only Armenian in the president's staff. The president also named Ike Hajnazarian as White House Regional Communications Director. Rich, I don't know if we have that link real quick, just to show everyone the image, if it's possible. There's an Arm and Press thing there. If you're seeing that, do
1 second.
you see that there, Rich, or no? That link?
Yes, David. Hang on, it's right here.
So anyways, but
I didn't know.
while we do
No, that's
that,
okay.
let's what do you call it? Let's also kind of we almost forgot. What's happening today? What are we fundraising for, David? What is the
Yes,
AGBU is the continued fundraising efforts,
Yeah.
right? And can you give us a little tidbit, and then we'll jump into who another appointee is.
Yeah. No, look, thank you, Greg. Yes, so, and I appreciate us sharing this, and I want to just call for everyone out there to give as much as you can. Donate right there at the bottom of the screen. Sorry, there we go. This is the camera, how it's working right there. Donate right there on the bottom right of your screen. It's going towards the AGBU Young Professionals Cares, the YP Cares program. It's a matching program. So every amount you give is being matched up to about $40,000 right now, which is amazing. We're not quite there yet. We're getting there. So if you give 100, that's 200, and you guys can do the math from there. But it's providing heaters, 2 heaters per family in Artsakh. These are families that are displaced from Shushi and Kadintak. And you guys recall when we were talking about the war, Shushi and Kadintak, these people from those regions, from those areas are particularly vulnerable because they have no home to go back to. So they're in shelters or they're in supplied housing. And it's also providing blankets and winter clothing for the very harsh, cold winter there. We are already sending money. We are already sending supplies to the people on the ground there. It's about,
we have our first donation. Thank you, Rostom, for being a good supporter.
so much.
Appreciate that. Obviously we'll continue doing this. These are one more thing to add to this conversation before we jump back into the Biden transition and the new cabinet. It was that we do notice that all throughout the diaspora, there seems to be I talk to a lot of influencers, a lot of people that do fundraising. Remember, David, me and you've been, Richard, we've all been around the block here. We've done this. How hard sometimes it is to fundraise in the Armenian community. That fervor that we saw in the first few days of the month of October, November, everybody's saying it didn't just dip, it just like fell off the cliff. And I implore the Armenian community to recheck back with yourself, back with the idea of what is needed. Cut through the fog of everything that is happening. Pashinyan, not Pashinyan. Come on, guys. We really need to keep at it. I have certainly been. I know my family has been. That whole fatigue. We need to work past it because the urgency and the need is there, and we just can't give up on our nation. Because because that is just a matter of impossibility. That being said, the link is right there. It's super easy. Technology is making it so easy, guys. You don't have to send a check nowhere, but certainly if you'd like, you can definitely send a check to AGBU, reach out to myself, Richard, or David. We can tell you where in New York. I believe New York is where the check would be sent to, right? Or actually somebody locally, or any of the chapters in the YP network. But the easiest thing would be click, and there you go. David, back to the gentleman at hand. Who is another Armenian?
I'm trying to pull it up. So
no worries.
But
no worries. Look, it's okay. No. He's, well, I guess I can give some back on him, right? It's very brief. Young guy. He's the White House Regional Communications Director. The contact at the Armenian Assembly thinks he's most likely working on like the Midwest region. That's where he has background. He was the press assistant to Senator Joe Donnelly from Indiana.
Okay.
He was later the deputy press secretary on the House Homeland Security Committee's majority staff. He's from Columbus, Ohio. And he was most recently the Western Pennsylvania regional press secretary for the Biden campaign. So he has now been named the White House Regional Communications Director. We don't know much more detail than that, but there you go. Another Armenian that we're aware of. We might find more. So it's good. We need more Armenians in the White
Right.
House.
Something to be said there. Obviously, the Trump team also had a few Armenians sprinkled here and there. It's
They
more
did,
of
yeah,
what these people can bring to the table and how can they impact the, also having a little bit of pull in the, towards the Armenian side. Hopefully it's, if they're in the executive branch, they're closer to the president. That's great to know.
exactly.
Well, let's hope they
Yeah.
have some pull. I mean, I think it's important to remember that just because they're Armenian doesn't mean that they have the ear of the president from an Armenian perspective. I mean, it also depends on how Armenian they think they are. I mean, are they more Aznavour or are they more Agassi?
Yeah.
No,
Good analogies. Great analogies.
right?
A little
So
jab at Andre Agassi.
thank you. But that's just because if you're going to fly, I'm not suggesting that just because they're Armenian, they need to take over the room with Armenian-related issues. But if the point of the Biden cabinet is to have more inclusiveness and more people of different genders and sexual orientations and different racial categories, if you can call it that, or different whatever you want, if we're talking about inclusiveness, it should be under the. I would imagine it's because they bring a different perspective to the White House or to the country at large. And so if we have more Armenians who are represented, hopefully they'll have more of an Armenian perspective. So that's just my 2 cents.
And excellent, and very well said. The other thing I want to kind of mention is that
Well,
yes, while the Armenian what do you call it? While the Biden transition is happening, I've been noticing on the chatter, and this is kind of more towards our community at large, the fact that we're so isolated, right? Just like the rest of the world, we're no special, we're no different. You would hope so, we would be, right? But a few times I saw the posts pop up, right? Oh, Armenians on the Biden executive team, right? And everybody's like, the Trump Armenians are like, right? And somebody mentioned something where I really, really agree with it. Hey, man, it's an Armenian doing a good job. Why don't you clap for them and
That's
move
right.
on? Move
That's
on,
right.
okay? Because being on Team Armenian is very important right now, especially in this time. Instead of assuming
absolutely.
that the old regime was going to take care of you. Which, by the way, we can roll into the next piece, which is kind of like a little kind of Trump poo-poo in the 11th hour that he left before he left office, right?
Yeah. Now I tried to pull up the link from the State Department, but sadly, what had happened is they archived everything.
It's okay.
Yeah, so, and I understand why, because the last 4 years have been a complete, clown show. So, I think they just want to start new, and that's reasonable, but anyway.
Yeah. But ANCA was on it. I kind of saw it. Yeah, U.S. and Turkey signed an agreement of bilateral agreement of cultural property. Essentially, it's something that not just Armenians. It's something that Armenians, Greeks, Assyrians, essentially all minorities of what do you call it, of kind of the diaspora of Turkey were asking for the U.S. not to sign. And here you see Trump went ahead and did it anyways. But don't know to what end that was done. Maybe some personal favors in the last.
Maybe we can unpack what it means.
Yeah.
I think
this is concerning.
That's really important.
Right. Yeah. So essentially, it's a memorandum of understanding granting Turkey legal rights to minority properties such as our churches. And by the way, all the fallout from that is the sell off of these properties. You know what I mean? Essentially, right. Turkey is the what do you call it? The what's the word I'm looking for? Is the owner of those properties. So we get pushed off the land, and Turkey gets to obviously pillage them. Why Trump needed to go ahead and kind of okay that, I don't know.
Yeah, this is concerning. It's very concerning. It's saying
multiple minority groups. You know, the Hellenic Council was. It doesn't concern Armenians only. It's the Greeks as well, the Syrians, Kurds for
Right,
sure.
right.
Um,
It,
so
yeah, it's yeah, like you said, Greg, the minorities, but it also says the region's indigenous peoples and other minority populations. That's pretty broad, right? And then the thing that's concerning here is saying this is how they're sliding it in. This agreement is an example of the United States enduring work with Turkey to combat cultural property trafficking and to preserve heritage items by allowing the U.S. to establish import restrictions on certain categories of Turkey's cultural property.
So,
Okay.
so let's see
right.
what that means. That means that if you have a Kachkar that was in Ani or somewhere, that you cannot bring it anywhere.
No.
So,
Right, and
so
they can
further
destroy
on
it all.
that, what that also means is if we look at genocide as not just the murder of people or the theft of land or the destruction of property, it is the erasure of the idea that those people were even there in the first place. So if Turkey has dominion over all of these artifacts and these architectural sites, and they demolish them, then what? Then nobody knows that anybody was there.
Well, not just
Equally,
that.
I will say something equally. Sorry, we have to yin yang this. We have to flow at this side as well. A lot of problems that the United States, and maybe I don't know, Biden didn't will do it. Obama certainly didn't. Clinton didn't. So it's not a left or right thing. A lot of these things actually point to America's ownership over its own sins.
That's
And
right.
yeah, for sure, it's like, yeah, America owns everything native, everything indigenous. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you know, the sacred sites in the Sonora Desert, right? You think I don't know, native groups can go in there and be like, here, you know, I'm a former so and so Navajo. I would like to now, you know, pray in this, you know, the cave dwellings. I think Montezuma it's called. Forgive me for not knowing, but you know, the United States owns those. Niagara Falls, sacred grounds. United States owns those. Zion Canyon, the Narrows there. Apparently, those areas were worshipped by the indigenous groups. You know what I mean? Like United States owns that. So, you know, like
Right. And
the
guys,
entire Yosemite Valley was sacred ground. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Yeah.
What's concerning, because I could just see what Turkey's probably saying, right? Listen, this is a very short sentence. And it's kind of ironic to your point, Greg, and to what we've seen from what's happening in Artsakh. The United States is unwavering in its commitment to protect and preserve cultural heritage around the world and to restrict trafficking in cultural property, which is often used to fund terrorist and criminal networks. Something tells me that I could see Turkey and Azerbaijan saying, yes, Armenians are trafficking this stuff, and they're using it to fund da, da, da. You know, like I could just see where this is coming from, how Turkey is saying it, and then getting the U.S.'s support. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now, but I could just see where that's coming from.
I totally get it. Absolutely, and
Wow.
and it's you know yeah, it's disheartening, but it's also kind of Trump playing into what he thinks America is, and you know we have zero apology towards anything on the native lands here. So it's kind of a, you know, we here, you there, do whatever you want. All that thing that you have, it's the entirety of it is yours, no matter
Right.
the indigenous folk that used to live here. Flowing into the next part, obviously a lot of transition
Right.
is happening currently, right, in the administrations
Right.
and in the Senate, because now both Senate and the House are controlled by the Democratic Party. And obviously, when the majority controls all the subcommittees are also kind of re-chaired by what do you call it? Bernie Sanders is
That
now the chair of the Finance Committee, which is a very strong committee. And Bob Menendez, a big, you know, friend of the Armenian people from New
Yes.
Jersey, he is the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee. And during the hearing on the, what do you call it? The affirmation of the Secretary of State Blinken, right? The nominee
Yeah.
for Anthony Blinken. Bob Menendez had words to say about, you know, and question his opinion on what is going on in terms of in the region regarding Turkey being not just very negative towards Armenia, but also towards Greece and the entire kind of the Mediterranean realm. So that was, positive to hear. How far it's going to go,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, there's a couple things if we could touch on it real quick, guys. He
Please.
says, here's what happens. Menendez, Senator Bob Menendez, Democrat from New Jersey, he cited Turkey's support for Azerbaijan's attacks and war crimes against Artsakh. He also cited its destabilizing actions in Syria and Libya, its invasion of territorial waters of Cyprus, claims on Greece's exclusive economic zone, and ongoing crackdown on journalists and lawyers. He specifically asked Blinken, Senator Menendez asked the nominee, Secretary of State nominee, Anthony Blinken, if the Biden administration is, this is the quote, clear-eyed about Turkey under Erdogan. Blinken apparently responded, "We are very clear-eyed. Turkey is an ally that in many ways you said is not acting as an ally should. This is a very significant challenge for us, and we are very clear-eyed about it." So that was Blinken's response. We have yet to watch and see what that means and what they're going to do in response. So.
On the previous matter, we have a couple. I want to be courteous to the folks that are watching. There's a few questions. Why does the U.S. Why does Turkey need the U.S.'s permission to grant those things, right? And the answer is this. These memorandums, obviously, Turkey cannot sign one with the United States and still continue doing everything that, by the way, it has been doing. It's flooded half of the Kilikian, Armenian sites with damming of rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, right? And it's definitely has, bulldozed half of our, look at Matthew Karanian, shout out to his book that he's made, literally, one of the biggest major saints of the Armenian church is the Grigor Narekatsi, right? And Narekatsi is literally monastery now that there's a mosque on top of it. And you would think like, well, maybe Narekatsi's monastery was where he was, buried, has been a long time ago already dismantled. No, it happened in the 20th century. Now that on top of it, that man's grave, that saint's grave, is a mosque. So the answer is why do we need this? Well, now you kind of have this document to say, oh, you know what? Not only do we have the right, but we also have this big kahuna named the United States that was also okay with it. Oh, and by the way, they're doing the same thing as well.
It's not just that. And so I want to put this through the lenses of the U.S. government. If the U.S. government has a treaty or an agreement with Turkey, and the agreement states that you can't traffic in these antiquities because they technically belong to Turkey, that means that anybody bringing things into America is now subject to American law. Okay, so it's not a question of whether they need permission to do anything to these artifacts or these sites. It's a question of trafficking them for the purposes to file it, as David said, to file it under terrorism.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot more going on in this stuff. And I would also add, some of this is probably Trump being malevolent or his administration being malevolent, but Trump's pen to the paper is probably more about, well, just get it done, and I want to sow some more chaos for other people to have to deal with later. Then more so than it is about direct malevolence against the Armenians. So I would just caution everybody with that.
Absolutely. To move along, David, everything's mentioned about Bob Menendez. He's a big time friend of the Armenian community out of New Jersey. I hope that, whatever him being on the Foreign Relations Committee, that will kind of, will have a friend in that region as well.
I hope he keeps the pressure on the situation over there, like you said, like you're bringing up. Yeah.
Obviously, but again, let's kind of let's dive back into there's a major anniversary, I believe 14 years today, right? What is something?
No, yesterday.
I apologize. Yesterday, 14-year anniversary of the assassination, point blank murder in broad daylight of Hrant Dink. you know, a man that
Former editor.
former editor of Agos, the Armenian newspaper in Istanbul. The memorial was very nice. Obviously, with the COVID the restrictions and everything, there was no ability to congregate. So they, which I believe that thing plays as well. There was doves were projected on the former Agos building to commemorate Hrant Dink's
And
murder
also
in broad daylight.
they also did a virtual commemoration online where you can
Mhm.
place you can place something out on the site virtually if you wanted to, like a message there. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is, yeah, obviously, well, first of all, I thought, like, yeah, 14 years have passed. There was some, headway in terms of what happened, and was there somebody arrested? Yes, there was. But ultimately, it's just a matter of, look, first of all, being a journalist in Turkey should be noted. It's a very dangerous job. Only second to probably Azerbaijan. Okay, and this is again us as Armenians trying to kind of pander to the West, like, hey, what are your ideals? What do you want to value? And Hrant Dink's passing is definitely yet another reminder of how dangerous it is to be Armenian
If we
Turkey,
could,
and to be a journalist in Turkey. That's like a double whammy right there.
for sure. So for those non-Armenians who don't know who Hrant Dink is, let's maybe have a discussion a little bit about who he was and what he was doing, what led to him being murdered, and the child that murdered him.
Yeah.
Right.
So he was murdered in the morning, right, on the way to his office, because the body was found, literally right outside, right, on the
sidewalk.
On the sidewalk right outside the office. Who was Hrant Dink? Hrant Dink was I want to say an intellectual person that had a particular angle into what needs to be the moving forward Armenian-Turkish relations. Not always in lockstep with the rest of the diaspora, right? But definitely somebody who I valued his intellect. His idea was that Armenian genocide is Turkey's skeletons to grapple with. It's something that and Turkey's the Armenian genocide recognition first and foremost should come to its endpoint within Turkish society, and not as a push from the outside. Obviously there's kind of tension points into that philosophy, but he was also a true Armenian intellectual. He was obviously the editor of a very important Armenian newspaper, a man that kind of went around the villages, preaching, collecting, analyzing all sorts of cultural artifacts of a vast, super rich Armenian heritage in the Republic of Turkey, formerly Ottoman Empire, formerly Armenia.
Right. Okay. So to just narrow it down, he was an Armenian Turkish citizen.
Yes.
Who was attempting to open up dialogue to suggest we need to get right with history and at least have some sort of realistic dialogue with each other to have some truth and reconciliation.
And by we, he meant Turkey. You know what I mean?
For sure. But we as a society, I don't think he was, my impression was, and maybe I'm wrong, but he didn't seem to be the kind of antagonist that was like, stirring things up from a negative perspective. My understanding is that he was trying to just get to reconciliation and some sort of truth around it all. And as a result, a 17-year-old nationalist shot him dead in the street. And if I recall correctly, he was not prosecuted. And if he was, it was no big deal.
There was a lengthy prosecution. Somebody is in jail for that. Finally, I think in November, or like recently, was placed. Don't quote me on this, but we need to kind of dig deeper into this entire fiasco. But to be honest with you, everything in Turkey is such a theatrical kind of ensemble. If it's necessary for Erdogan's regime, or if he needs to win some kind of points somewhere, just like recently during the middle of the war, there was an Armenian politician, that prominent Turkish politician that passed away. I believe that's who it was. And you saw a
Right.
photo of Erdogan inside of an Armenian cathedral during Badarak. Literally, while a few hundred miles that way, Armenians are being murdered on the front lines of Artsakh. Okay, so I don't want to play into why and how it was, how it happened, but
Yeah, I mean, look, he wrote about it. He was very vocal in writing about it. It was a Turkish Armenian dual language newspaper. He wrote about it numerous times, ongoing, and he was murdered for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We all know people that knew or that were there, or we know people that were there when it happened. Obviously, not obviously, there was a hashtag that came about from it, or a saying, where it actually did bring a lot of non-Armenians out showing support for Hrant Dink, and the saying is, "I am Hrant Dink." There were Turks that came out saying that, and they went and they paid their respects to him. But has anything really progressed since then? I don't know.
No, it's definitely digressed. We can obviously attribute. There's a lot of other things that I've noticed about Erdogan. I mean, clearly, guys, about what happened now, right? You could see the man hates us with a passion, but he knows how to be a politician. That being said, there has been pouring of support for Dink through a lot of international intellectual channels. I believe even Maya Angelou was very much aware of what happened. But anywhere where you kind of you have a murder of a journalist, of a thinker, of a people's,
Right.
obviously that's going to be that's going to have a lot of resonance. And every year we must remember that this occurred, and this may still yet occur, because that's what Turkey.
Even if this wasn't an Armenian issue, it's still a journalism and openness issue.
Absolutely.
But the fact that it's an Armenian issue on top of it is particularly poignant for us.
Right. Another side note there, Hrant Dink's childhood orphanage is being transformed into I believe, a youth center. Rich, you were showing that earlier.
Yeah.
This is again where I think like Turkey likes to play hot and cold. I believe the mayor of Istanbul was in favor of that. That's great and all. That definitely doesn't sit well in terms of what the overall opinion of Armenian things in Turkey are, because although I don't want to, we don't need to dwell on the link. While that's happening, simultaneously, again, let's divorce from the onslaught and the carnage of the war. But in Turkey proper, there's Armenian churches currently, right now, being sold off on their, whatever, the equivalent of their, I don't know, realtor.com. There's actually links of former Armenian Catholic church in the, I believe in the Istanbul adjoining region, that's being sold for $800,000. I believe a month ago there was a news article of another Armenian church being turned into a Turkish cultural site, a center, not an Armenian youth center, not an Armenian cultural center, just a Turkish cultural center. They decided that, hey, this is an Armenian religious what do you call it, monument that can be appropriated and done whatever with it. So clearly, memorandum or not, with Trump, Turkey can and will and continues to do whatever the hell it wants to with our properties. Also, there's a little tidbit there about the way that the general population of Turkey feels about anything Armenian. Garo Paylan, the what do you call it, the outspoken Armenian Turkish what do you call it, politician, member of parliament, was critical about the celebrity chef that decided to host a barbecue in the backyard of an old Armenian church in the area of Istanbul. So clearly, we got the murder of Hrant Dink. Let's turn his old orphanage into a youth center. Cool, that's great, but that really doesn't change anything, because everything else you do is anti-Armenian as can be. So, anyways, moving along.
And that orphanage is in Tuzla, where Hrant Dink grew up. But yeah, it's the the contradicting actions, they scream just hatred towards Armenians. There's no, like you said, Greg, it's a mixture of politics and then consistency of hatred towards Armenians.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, Garo Palan is a prominent Armenian member of parliament, in Turkey. Yeah.
A man that comes on every April 24th in Turkish parliament, and that, you know, that's, you got to give it to the man, and starts reading off the names of every Armenian intellectual that was rounded up and marched. And if he's not allowed to do that, he at the very least puts a motion on the floor asking to recognize the Armenian genocide, or
every year
memorialize that. Yeah, I mean, man, the guy has.
Can't imagine he makes a whole lot of friends.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's.
But you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
We need more of him.
He's risking his life.
He's definitely risking his life, David.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Moving along, you know, there are some things, you know, we can kind of, we should definitely pivot to Armenia. Armenia and Artsakh are the point of the show most of the time. There's a little bit of a segue between what's happening in Turkey on this important anniversary and also what's happening in the US on this humongous transition here. But, you know, pivoting to Armenia, just a tidbit, an analysis was written, and I appreciate them writing it in the EVN report, a news organization we like and enjoy and, you know, promote, and anybody that's interested in a good analytical kind of rundown of certain pertinent topics in Armenia proper. They put out something very interesting, something we've talked about it, Rich, David, we've definitely mentioned it. It's kind of like, is Armenia expendable to the European Union? I give you, you know, I suggest you know, we'll put out the link. Please read it. But bottom line is yes. Is Georgia expendable to the European Union? Yes. Is every country that tried to pivot to the democratic side, the European Union has been kind of baffled in its response. And that is concerning because, you know, you got autocratic regimes buying up power all over the Western world. And the Western world is just giving lip service to countries. Hey, be democratic, blah, 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 blah.
That's all it is.
Nothing happened when Armenia became democratic. Literally nothing. Maybe even worse than nothing happened. There's a lot of things that
happened, Greg. We got a few national conferences and seminars. That's what we got. Got a couple of those.
David, I'm gonna correct you on that one. Yes, we did get that. But did you know that those were already planned by the Serge? Those were already earmarked to have. Yeah, like the Francophonie was gonna happen, whether it was Pashinyan or Serge Sarkisian.
Okay.
So I don't know about that. You know, I'll call it the Kim Kardashian, Gary V tech summit that happened last year. I don't know about that, but definitely the bringing of all the French-speaking world to Armenia was something that was already done prior to that. But those are just meetings. I'm talking about a country deciding to move your way, sorry, baby, and you doing nothing. You being like that democratic.
Oh man, Greg, you know the script. It's show me the money, baby. That's what it is.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, it's almost, you know, I don't want to call it absurd, but it is almost ridiculous to have the conversation about, is Armenia expendable to the EU? Of course it is. Because if you give most Europeans the option and you tell them, hey, we can either spend a whole bunch of money to go save this little place, or we can do more business with Azerbaijan to make sure that we've got more heating oil and you know, natural gas to take care of your house. They're going to go, well, that's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
We don't care.
And this is a very succinct segue into the next point. We have, what do you call it? And Rich, you can pull up, I kind of shuffled around a few things. Is the story about the Polish politician that was was offered a $50,000 bribe by Baku, the Azeri regime, to essentially torch a report on the war crimes in Artsakh during the war. This man actually had the wherewithal not to do that. So thank you to this political figure in the Polish, the Republic of Poland. But that goes to tell you how things are done between Azerbaijan and what do you call it, and the European
It's
EU.
not just it's not just the EU and Azerbaijan. It's everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can cloud ourselves with the idea that, oh, with the new administration or with, this country is different from this country and they operate differently. We can, until I see a country actually live its principles, I'm going to call BS every time, because I haven't experienced the kind of ethical, grounding that is promoted constantly. So, it's not, I would just say it's not just, the EU and
Well,
and
Rich, to your point, man, and I've heard this in speaking with colleagues at like the Armenian Assembly as an example, the international organizations like the EU and the UN, they become susceptible to political lobbying themselves and to being bought out essentially. So they're no longer serving objectively or serving the global community like they're supposed to be or they were set out to be. It's like you said, exactly. What can you do for me, and how much are you going to pay?
That's right. And
yeah.
I would like to not be cynical. I would like to remain a little doe-eyed and a little bit naive, and I would like to live in a way that is a little bit more hopeful. But my experience, and I think the experience of many generations before me and us, has been obvious, and it's shown us the way people deal with things. The reality is that Armenia and Artsakh are not going to get the kind of international support unless we provide them something.
Right.
Whether it's
obviously, so this is why,
whether it's commodities or something. But it's not just going to be because, oh, we invented wine, or because we invented the ATM machine, or we invented this, or we're wonderful Christians, or any of that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And I wish they did.
No. And it's naive, and it's naive to think that nobody cares, guys. Just as we're talking about the horrors that are happening in Artsakh right now, there's still a famine in Yemen. Okay. And there's strife brewing in the East African region around Ethiopia and Eritrea and Sudan, okay, or where those countries are not.
Genocide in Nigeria and Ethiopia as well, isn't there?
Exactly.
Genocide.
So what I'm saying is, the Western world, as it kind of self-elected to be the bearer of the good news and the democracy of the world, is failing. And I believe I want to kind of make the argument that it always kind of failed. And the lesson learned here, and we should kind of move forward, is that we as Armenians need to understand how the game is played and play it and be masterful at it. So when time comes, we need to buy politicians. When time comes, we need to buy favors. And yes, when time comes, we should orchestrate a cultural night of how awesome Armenians are in your particular country. And thank you. That can also be a component. But currently, I feel like that's our only component. Like, look at me, I'm so cool. Why don't you like me? And that's not the way to go.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. So Greg, with that, tell us about the two ministers that were appointed.
Yes, no, I was trying to find the link, but I believe there was a change up, and also obviously concerning, but also to the point of everything that Pashinyan does. Everybody knows who I am. I'm a critic of Pashinyan. It's okay. You can label me as that guy.
Greg, you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah. So
you're not alone.
Rich, there was no link. Essentially, the Minister of Health was kind of became Pashinyan's chief of staff, and then there was somebody that was his deputy minister was appointed, and the criticism there is the person has zero any kind of medical credentials whatsoever. There was the same criticism of the newly appointed Minister of Defense as well. I believe that the person has zero military background, and that was and should be concerning. Okay. Right. But but to me, that's just one and the same into the way that the man operates
Wow.
And also, let's not forget, he's toxic like Trump is. I know they're not the same person, but remember in the latter days of Trumpisms, like nobody wanted to finally touch him, even his own cronies. The man couldn't find I believe, a lawyer to defend him at this impeachment trial, right? Similar things are happening with he's picking up scraps, he's reshuffling cabinets, people are running away from his political parties, whatever that was, and that's going to continue on and on and on, because he's a populist, and as populists do, they often don't like to own their mistakes. Oh, it's somebody else. Oh, it's somebody else. Oh, it's somebody else. He had the audacity recently to say that he handled the POW crisis very well. And there's actually less POWs now in Azerbaijan than there were prior. Why aren't we yelling at the old regimes? That's not the way a leader speaks.
Yeah, come on. There's still POWs there right now.
Exactly. He also, I believe, he recently was quoted saying that he handled the COVID pandemic. Something I could write just an essay just on that. Outside of the Artsakh madness. And by the way, the COVID problem in Armenia did not start with the Artsakh war. It got amplified by it, for sure.
Of course.
The spike happened. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, when you have other things to worry about, like, a war, making sure everybody has masks and hand stuff is, what are you talking about? There's shelling happening.
By the way, guys, and it's very related. I know it's not on the list. There's no link, but it's extremely related to what you just brought up, Greg, what you just said, Rich. Apparently, there's PPE that is sitting in customs in Armenia, thousands of pieces that are not being delivered where they need to go because they're stuck in customs for whatever reason. They've been sent for free. And they're stuck there. I've heard this from someone with direct contact trying to...
Guys, this plays into the nightmares of what we saw happening during the war. We were trying to shuttle,
It's
safety equipment and medical equipment and whatever else.
It's embarrassing.
I don't understand. Apparently they're using government budget money to buy PPE when there is PPE sitting in customs,
because they're not.
It may not be enough.
PPE, David.
Well, I don't know.
They're buying PPE.
Well, no, that's what I was told by the person that's actually trying to get the stuff there. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, maybe then maybe they're having to buy it to circumvent customs. I don't know, but it seems ridiculous. But it seems
does.
The left hand isn't talking to the right hand.
You have the diaspora, and by the way, this is Armenia Fund. This is Armenia Fund sending it, which supposedly is 50% government, 50% diaspora. I don't understand. So like you have Armenia Fund sending it, you have diaspora sending it, and it's not getting there. I don't understand why. That's probably not just a Pashinyan thing. Who else in the government can freaking get that done? I don't know. But it doesn't make any sense.
No, dude, it's one and the same with all the failures that I mean, let's not even talk about the blunder, the generational horror of this war, the failures on the ministries of this administration be a separate conversation. And again, we got the news article, Minister of Technology or the IT, the guy that I've told you about, receipts on how horrendous his operation is, talking about how the digital future of Armenia, blah 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 blah, and you just kind of look at the guy and you go like, really, you're gonna continue? I just can't. I mean, anything you say, it needs to be a full recycle of the government, and why it's not happening, I don't know. But anyways, let's we should at this point wrap up. I want to say something. Thank you to the 3 donors. We have $175. That is phenomenal.
There's
phenomenal.
By the way, we have 6 more minutes and we have a couple more pieces.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Greg, why don't you touch on the? This is really disturbing. This was disturbing to see this. Apparently, Turkey and Azerbaijan are conducting joint military exercises near the city of Gars, which is in Turkey, which is
where my grandfather was born.
Okay? Exactly, it's in eastern Turkey.
That guy right there. That guy right there. This gentleman right there that always watches over me. Grandpa, right. I miss you. He was born in Kars, which is a sister city to Gyumri or Leninakan. They're gonna have joint military exercises. I don't care what for, but obviously they're strengthening the whole, harass Armenia,
Exactly. Yeah.
one nation, two countries, on and on and on and on.
Well, I mean, if anything, what this says to me is they're not going to conduct an exercise just for the heck of it.
Well, right. It's intimidation tactics, and they're continuing to show aggression, continuing. Like, you got your war, you got your land, but they're not done. To your point, Rich, they're not done.
And the troubling thing about this for me, and I don't know if anybody else has any red flags around this, but I think if you are alive and are an Armenian, you absolutely should. And that is that we saw them have joint military exercises before what happened in Artsakh. And now they're doing it right next to Armenia. And here's the deal. I believe that Artsakh was the beta test, and they realized that nobody was going to do anything.
Exactly.
Well, what happens if they come into Armenia? Nobody's going to do anything. Unless
there is one major difference about that particular geographic location, and obviously the fallout, by the way, there is that there's the two border villages are being near the border of Turkey in the Shirak region, is what's the region of Armenia there, are on high alert and are being told to stand ready for evacuation if need be. Can you imagine that?
After all the war that we dealt with, there's a little bit of detail in the Ospez report, which apparently is citing the Daily Saba. It's going to be from February 1 to 12. It's a statement. It was a statement on Sunday that the Turkish armed forces are preparing for the most comprehensive winter drill in recent years. Greg, Rich, why would they be interested in winter drills? What was something that they had to do during the war in Artsakh as the weather started to turn? Why might they be interested in winter drill?
Because Artsakh was had the Pashinyan regime not already conducted a backstabbing way of essentially giving off land. The Azeri army was going to have a very uphill battle when in the mountainous terrain when the snow set in. So
exactly they sent their special mountain forces, right? This is saying that it's going to mostly focus on operational capabilities during the harsh weather conditions of winter months, including practices of sheltering, reinforcement, maintenance, and educational development. It's going to include helicopters, commandos will participate in the drill, sniper teams, heavy artillery operators, tank divisions, personnel of the Specialty Forces Command in the winter months.
So, you know what?
There you go.
Rich.
I'm just gonna say, I hope that we have a good relationship with Russia. The U.S.
We have a military base right there. We have a huge.
Well, here's the thing, Rich. There is a treaty that's supposedly supposed to guarantee Armenia's safety. Russia could breach that. They could, and which would mean Armenia's doomed. But I don't know if they would at this point.
Well, that all depends
after
on
we've already had everything handed.
It depends on when they do it. It depends. First of all, I believe they're going to do something nasty. They're going to do something horrific. That's what I believe.
Or at the very least, they're going to harass. Yeah.
I hope not, man. I hope not.
I hope not.
It does go on, guys. If you want to hear it, it does go on. No. Ground and air assaults, airdrops, foreign operations, logistical support will be practiced by both militaries. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
We should wrap up and be true to our time limit. But I want to kind of use this as an opportunity to talk to every Armenian. And if you listen to us after the live, you can just drive in your car to work and listen to us. To every Armenian that doesn't understand that if you were anti-Russian yesterday, today you just became pro-Russian. Why? Because you have to. Number one. Number two, and I'm mostly speaking to my, I'm a lefty, my lefty Armenians, pro-democracy people. if you think that you want this kind of ideology of, hey, pivot to the west, regardless, blah 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 blah, you're speaking from a point of privilege, okay? Because that country, Turkey and Azerbaijan, are constantly telling you, we're coming to get you, while we're talking from this 1,000 miles away idea of, well, maybe, you know, if anything, this blah 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 blah. No, they literally want to come and get you. And as a matter of fact, Richard, actually, they might not even go from the Armenian side. They're just preparing their dogs, Azeris, to do continuation of what they're doing in the from the Azeri side. They don't even have to do anything from the Turkish side.
What you've done is inadvertently answered Sosi's question, which is, you know, do you believe the Turkey's going to send their own military or find more cannon fodder?
They don't have to.
No, they already did though. They did. Well, at least the leadership they did in the war. We know that. We know it was their leadership running the war.
And let's not forget that Azerbaijan is both on the eastern and the western side of Armenia, with the enclave of Nakhichevan, formerly Armenian land, Vaspurakan kingdom.
The other part of this is that what the Azeris don't exactly understand is that when Turkey is done with them, they may call them cousins, they may call them brothers, but they're going to treat them like, well,
dog poop.
For sure, they're going to treat them like.
You know, we have a friend and listener, Arach, which you both and I know. He's mentioning that Russia won't allow Turkey in their bases in Gyumri. My rebuttal to Arach, and I'm sure that's what he mentioned further on, is that again, we don't need them to come through Gyumri, through the Russian base.
Right.
They're just training their guys. By the way, Turkey is a large, vast country. Think about this. Why are they training in Kars? It's an intimidation tactic.
Exactly. It's the eastern, the western Armenia.
There's snow in the entire mountainous areas of the Kilikian region of Turkey as well right now. Go train over there. And by the way, they're not just harassing us; they're constantly harassing Kurds in in Syrian provinces and northern Iraq and in that area as well. And there's throughout the war there was talks of bombardment in those areas as well. The world, and I hope President Biden, but again, State Department always comes through with the DOD kind of, and the Pentagon. Hey, that's our NATO ally. Hopefully, this administration.
We have to keep pressuring, right? We have to keep pressuring them, but yes, you're right.
David, not us. When the hell will the Greeks, Assyrians, Kurds, and their diasporas also wake up? I'm tired of doing heavy lifting. This is a menace to the entire region.
For sure.
Okay?
For sure.
Like, when are they going to, like, don't forget that this entire ramp up to the Armenian Artsakh war, the most monumental thing that happened was the conversion of Hagia Sophia back from a museum into a mosque. Okay? And the Greeks did what? The Greeks have done nothing. They then continued harassing them in the Mediterranean. And recently I had a little scuffle with a Cypriot on Artsakh Media's Facebook page, because recently in the city of Paphos, which my parents have been to, it's a beautiful, shout out to a few of our friends in Cyprus. We have a few Armenian members. David, you know who I'm talking about, that are Cypriot Armenians. Apparently in the city of Paphos, there has been Talat Pasha Street that just has been renamed. Finally. Just now it's been renamed. Okay? Yeah. So while I love my Greek friends and my Cypriot friends, guys, we need to get a little bit more organized.
Yeah, but listen, just to push back just a minute, in this country, we're still pulling down statues of Robert E. Lee. We're still pulling down Confederate statues. We're still renaming streets from shitty people. Sorry, but that's just, So yes, you're right. They need to push harder. Yeah. But I would also just offer a little grace that maybe they have some bureaucracy they got to deal with too.
2021? Okay, cool. Yeah, no,
okay.
I got it.
Well, sure, but I get it. But, but we're again, Confederate statues, still pulling them down.
Yeah. 1004. It is 1004.
Yeah, well, look,
we have
guys,
two more things, which is the POW issue and the last one.
Yep. Let's kick it.
Yeah, it's beyond disturbing that the POW situation is still there. the Artsakh foreign minister has appealed to international bodies for help with securing the safe return of remaining POWs. I'm not sure if it's clear how many are still out there. It almost feels like, Greg, Rich, almost feels like we're learning of new ones still that are popping up, that are now missing, or that a body is found that was a prisoner of war. There are no words for these things, and we still have to deal with it this many months now after the war ended. It's unacceptable. It's uncalled for. It needs to stop, and we need to continue to be vocal about it. And I'm talking to myself too. We need to be posting about it, guys. There are things we can be doing on social media. It may not feel like it's going to move the needle much, but guys, organizations and people were posting about it, and we ended up seeing Human Rights Watch put an article out and put something out. We ended up seeing something happen. Well, it didn't happen during the war. We ended up seeing the results of the outreach later on. And so we need to keep doing it. So there's organizations that when you post about how there's still prisoners of war that are missing, and they need to be brought home safely. Tag groups like Human Rights Watch, like Amnesty International, like the Freedom House, and so on. I'm going to put a whole list in the feed, and use hashtags: free Armenian POWs, stop Azeri war crimes until they are home. Use those hashtags to keep that trending. It has to stop.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, David. I think, I can't speak for you or Greg. I can only speak for me. Sometimes I get a little, tunnel vision, and I get a little jaded, and I come at it from my own perspective, which is I've seen this, I've done this, I've been working on this, and but the reality is that, the more we try and amplify some of these things, whether it's a hashtag or whether it's a post or a picture or something, we never know who is going to receive it, who's going to run across it, who's going to investigate and activate as a result. So right. I think it's really important to every once in a while take off our jaded caps and just go through the motions anyway, even if you're feeling like you've done this shit before and no one's doing anything about it. Forgive my language, but it's just months and months of grinding, it wears on you. And when you say things like months and months after the war, it still feels like last week.
It does. It absolutely does. But you're absolutely right, Rich. We have to keep pushing. It's hard. I have to tell myself this. I've even pulled back in terms of my social media, but I'm trying to catch myself. I'm praying about it. I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm trying to catch myself. I'm trying to regroup and keep going. Thankfully, thanks to you guys, we're able to keep this program going. We hope that we're a resource for people to get information, to share information with others as well, and to donate. Thank you, everybody, for donating. We have to keep fighting because if we don't, no one's going to. So
and also we need to, guys, and let's wrapping this up. I really don't want to go over a lot of time. There is a need to rethink the way that we do things. Okay. And I know that there's a lot of perpetuation of the status quo. I want to kind of not usher in out with the old, in with the new, but definitely welcome in a lot of new orgs, new thought, new ways of moving forward, because we're falling in our old ways, and clearly our old ways are not working. Because if anything, if we weren't sold off, we were definitely caught off guard. So, and that is not the way, and that is not the way I want to roll anymore.
For sure.
That's David. What's the last bit that we try to always end on a positive note, right? Was there something that we had today?
Yeah. There was a report that came out about these two 19-year-old classmates that saved lives during the war. We always try to find something positive, Greg, like you said. Rich, you've done so good at helping us stay on track with that too. The war started 16 days after they had signed on, which is really crazy. They were college friends, and they were two medical assistants that no matter how much they tried, they can't forget what they witnessed during the recent war. We'll share the article from Hetk website. They're both 19 years old. They were students at Yerevan State Medical University, and they joined the Artsakh Defense Army and they, you know, they both wanted to serve together.
It's a
And
very
they
positive.
help save
note.
lives. They help save
Um,
lives out there, which was
They
amazing.
they are literally what makes you want to look to the future, because everything that was done right by the boys and obviously there are talks of girls as well,
Yeah.
that we're serving.
Yeah, they transported
Everybody else, I'm sorry guys, everybody else failed. That's the way I'm
Yeah.
just gonna leave
Yeah,
it.
they transported wounded and they treated them along the way in the transport vehicle.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's
And, and again, this, I have to reiterate something I said early on, which was, never underestimate the power of people trying to save their own homes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're 18, 19 years old, you have other things you want to do besides go kill other people. Like, you want to like go to college, you want to meet, maybe your future bride or your future husband. You want to, you want to start a life. And, and for these guys to, willingly put themselves out on the line like this is just, I mean, I have nothing but, reverence.
Gratitude and thank for them. Gentlemen, let's end it there.
All right.
Thank you everyone that was watching. Thank you everyone that is watching. Obviously, also you can watch
Yes.
after we don't no longer go live. We will see you next Wednesday. We guess that's lined up. Somebody that I definitely would like kind of ask many questions. We will continue with our emailing and our broadcasting previous to the show, so that you know who it is. Wednesdays, 9 p.m., 1 hour, a little longer today. This is what we do from now on, and we're going to continue doing it.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys. Thank you everybody.